Leicester 3, Palace 0. I'm joined by Adrian here. Adrian, such a disappointing defeat for Palace. Didn't have much going forward and, defensively conceded very poor goals. What did you make of the game?
Very disappointing. Very, very. It was like we were still down in South London. Seriously, we were second best to everything. Zaha, he played miles too narrow. Instead of being out wide, couldn't understand why we didn't put Townsend on out wide, or even the youngster Perrick, and bomb down them wings, because I think we had the beating of them down the wings, really and truly. Just can't believe it.
So do you think it's down to the tactics then? What do you think it was? Zaha hasn't looked really that good over the last 2 games. I'm not too sure if it's 100% fit.
No.
What do you think it was? We didn't really seem like we had a plan B in this game after we went 1-0 down.
Yeah, exactly that. I think they've given up. If you saw the Bournemouth game, they were absolutely on fire, and they seem to have lost it at Liverpool. I think understandably they went there hoping to not lose as much as they did. Burnley, I can't understand why they didn't turn up. Zaha went off and it just opened the game up for Burnley. But today, we were second best all over the pitch. I think the only good thing is Benteke winning the ball up in the air every time. And that is why, one of the reasons why he's not scoring, because we're not putting the crosses in for him to get on, his head on the ball.
Yeah, I'm not. See, that's the thing I don't understand. Why don't we? Even this game, Patrick Van Aanholt, he wasn't going down the left-hand side and overlapping Wilf as he has done previously. It just seems like we're just too scared of the opposition. Leicester are a good side, of course. They are third. But if you look at their recent form, I think before this game, they've only scored 2 goals since the restart. And they're not at the greatest form. Jamie Vardy wasn't that great before this game. But it just seems like we entered this game full of fear.
Yeah. No, 100%. I totally agree. It was like we played too deep. If you look at the game against Bournemouth, we pressed quite high up in the field. So we were winning the ball quite high. And Van Aanholt, he was running off Zaha, and Zaha was doing exactly the same thing. They were playing for each other. And I don't know what's happened between Bournemouth and now, because we don't seem to be playing for each other, and they're definitely not playing for us. It's bad.
Yeah, let's now talk about the goals, of course. Unfortunately, we conceded 3 goals, and some of them were very questionable. So the first goal, Vicente, against Burnley, it seemed like it was his fault. It was a poor goal to concede, but today it was even worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's been great for us this season, but if this was Hennessy, of course, I've said this to previous guys. If this was Hennessy, we wouldn't stop talking about it for the whole week, and this has happened twice now. So what happens with Vicente? You're Roy Hodgson right now. Do you drop him, or do you continue playing him?
No.
So you don't. Why wouldn't you drop
it? In lots of respects, that ball should never have come in, right? First and foremost, right? Defence and the midfield should have knocked that ball out a long time before. But I honestly think, look at it. Look what he's done for us over the season, right? And the last 2 games, keepers make mistakes, but the first one at Burnley, maybe he could have saved it, but ho-hum, that happens. But this one, he's got to learn. You look what happened to Speroni when he first played for us all them times, and we went out and bought Corrali. He made a very similar sort of howler, and he got dropped. But then, now look what he done after that when he got back in the team. He was 100% every time. I think, but I don't think Guaita's going to be here next season, truthfully. there's two, like, you know, like Villarreal's after him, by all accounts, you know, and you're hearing all these things. He's a good keeper, like, you know, because of like circumstances. They're playing quite late on in the season. Like, you know, they'd have been on holiday now, or they'd just be coming back off holiday to start training again. So, you know, maybe that's partly why they're like that. Like, but you know, what can you say? He's a great keeper. He's the best we've got at the moment. Like, you know, Hennessy's a good keeper, but he don't seem to do it at club level. He's always doing it for Wales. Like, is he not like sure about the four in front of him, or is it, you know, he's just making some rash decisions? I think Guaita thought he had to make that save, or like come out for that, but he didn't quite make it. And it bounced. If you look at it, it bounced just in front of him as well. So, you know, you could say he had a bit of a thing, but you know, he's done it. You know, move on.
What about Mamadou Sakho? For the second goal, he's been rumored to leave the club. Leon are after him. It was we've seen it with Sakho in the past. It's not like he's 100% mistake proof. He does have mistakes in his game. That's Mamadou Sakho, and he has some brilliant moments as well. But the fact that he just slipped, I'm not too sure if it was the grass or it was the boots, but it was such a odd mistake from him. I don't know what's going on with him. He hasn't been at it.
I can't understand why he had to come back inside before, like, instead of clearing it. That's like, I just can't understand why he had to turn back inside rather than putting it up the line for Zaha or the youngster Mitchell to chase onto. Like, you know, I just, you know, it just absolutely thing. Like, I always got told when I played football as a youngster, when in doubt, knock it out. Like, irrespective of whether you're attacking or stuff like that, he had no one else to pass it to. If he, like, you know, and it was always a chance that he would slip or give the ball away, because, like, when he's playing around like that, if he hasn't got anyone close to him, like, to pass it to, then he makes a mistake. You know, but the thing is, some of the best, like, in our league do exactly the same thing. You know, Otamendi, like David Luiz, you know, Sakho, you know. So, you know, there are mistakes out there. It's just on the day whether you know, you see it or not. And we were full of them today.
What do you think of Jairo Riedewald? He started today and in midfield, which was positive to see in my aspect. I like him as a midfielder. He went off for Kouyaté. I'm not too sure about that substitution whilst being 1-0 down. But what do you make of his performance?
I'm in the same boat as you. I quite like the boy. He's very, like, versatile, because, you know, he can play midfield and he plays it well, but he also can play, like, defensively as well. Like, I think, like, you know, I was really crying out for, you know, if they were going to make a substitution, they were going to bring on Townsend and maybe take off either, actually, like, Luca didn't have a great game today. Like, and I was thinking, like, either him or MacArthur come off. I'm not a great lover of McCarthy, like, but I would have kept Riedewald on, like, and gone 4 across midfield, like, and then put Benteke and, like, AU together, and, like, got Townsend or Perrick, like, and Zaha bombing up and down that wing, like, and putting crosses in. I think that was the only way we'd have got back in there. I really do.
So what's next for Palace? 3 games with no goals. Got Chelsea coming up on Tuesday. Do you think the lineup needs to change? The tactics needs to change? With the tactics, we've seen it with Roy. He's not the one to change it about. So where do you go from here? We've got some difficult games.
Yeah. No, one of my biggest, like, gripes about Roy is he's done brilliant with the team. Like, you know, don't get me wrong, but, like, you know, he doesn't make substitutions when they should. He waits till quite late in the game to do it, you know. And I you know, I think sort of round about the sort of 60th minute, is the best time to make a substitution. It gives the substitutes that are coming on time to get into the game, right? Get up to the speed of the game, right? Because if they don't, right, they don't always do the job that you want them to do. You do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think that is my only thing. But like on Roy Hodgson, like, you know, he's like I say, he's done a great job for us. I think what we've got to do is bring in another, like, possibly his sort of predecessor, and actually, like, get him to train him up to take over. So when he does retire, like, we've got a man already there doing the job. That's what I think they should do with him. Also, allowing the guy to bring in his own attributes to the club as well.
There's been rumours coming out today that Palace are actually looking for alternatives for Roy Hodgson once he does leave. Of course, there's a couple of names mentioned there, Sean Dyche and the likes of.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about your man of the match. If you had to pick someone from the Palace side who had maybe a positive game, who would it be?
I think Chris Benteke. I really do, you know, or Riedewald. That, you know, those two, because they showed the energy to go out and actually do what you know, right, they were supposed to do. You know, Zaha, right, I don't know whether it's because he was kept quiet, right, but he didn't really, like, make an impression in the game. Where, you know, like, Benteke was up there, he was winning balls in the air. Like, Ayew, like, every time I see him, he spends more time on the ground than he does running for the ball. And that's not always where he's been tackled, neither. So, you know, and that's one of my gripes about Ayew. You know, and I can't understand why he scores so many goals. But, you know what I mean? But, yeah, I would give it either to Riedewald or Benteke, but I think, like, the latter for me more than Riedewald, because they were the only ones who showed the energy.
Yeah, Benteke coming to the side was massive. Thank you for this, Adrian, giving your thoughts after the game. As always, if you want to give your thoughts, leave down a comment down below. Let us know what you think about the game. And until next time, up the Palace.